Are they lazy rap fans because they're not listening to your music anymore?
Come on,
I'm
man.
telling you, that's what it's about. That's how I feel.
And if it's like that, then just tell them, like,
say
I put
that.
a record out. Sitting on Chrome is a great record.
Masta Ace talks about lazy rap fans. Is the lazy fan partially responsible for today's music climate? Now, I'm going to read a little bit about what...
It kind of sounds the same way we talked about with Exhibit and
for sure.
Yachty.
Let's see what
Ace got to say. So Masta Ace has a bone to pick with disgruntled rap fans, claiming that those who believe there is a lack of good music in the genre today should expand their search efforts beyond what is fed to them. Now, this is a Hip Hop DX article as well. During an appearance on Lord Jamar, 𝗏𝗘𝗏, and Godfrey's God Pass podcast, the former Juice Crew MC was asked for his thoughts about the current state of hip hop and voiced his displeasure with what he sees as a lack of effort from critical listeners. I think we can also tie this into Erick Sermon's comments. Did you guys see Erick Sermon's comments about, like, we shouldn't call what's out today hip hop because it's different than what hip hop is? And we'll get there. We'll get there.
That's
we'll get
the
there.
kind of stuff. Anyway,
we'll get there. So Masta Ace says, I think there's good music out there. You got to search for it. You got to make an effort. If you just focus on what's on the radio, then you're going to lose every time. And I think that could be expanded to, anything that's fed through popular algorithms a lot of times as well.
Sure.
But if you listen to just the radio, I don't know who does, then you'll be convinced that there's no good music out there, no good artists out there, that there's actually no good music, blah, 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 blah. He added, it disappoints me how lazy our generation of fans are. He says our. I don't think that he means our, because his generation of fans definitely know about him.
Yeah.
But they only listen. They only listen to what they're being spoon fed. You don't know how many times I run into people, and they usually look like us, and they say, "Oh, Masta Ace, man, I ain't heard you in a while. What you been up to? Last thing I remember you dropped was Me and the Biz." And I'm like, what? So to that, is there any merit to what he's saying there in that aspect? I'll let it go around the room.
Man. So
you start off a statement with "man."
I understand where he's coming from. I really do.
It's kind of a tired talking point, though.
It is, and if you're not willing to give that talking point with a point of reference for people to go look for, then you probably should just be quiet, is kind of my opinion on that. And then also, like, I don't know why, this is what I'm saying, heads, they act like this is new. It's kind of always been like that in some genres. My dad is always, he's always explained to me, about Funkadelic, because my pops is a OG Funkateer. And, his comment was always like, you didn't hear that stuff on the radio. You had to know somebody that knew it. And you might hear it at house parties or whatever. He was like, nobody was playing, Funkadelic records on the radio. It's just
until
what
Atomic Dog came.
Yeah, he was like, and that's way after the fact. He was saying, he always told me that he was like, if people want to go, people are going to have to look for stuff. So it's always been like that. But if you're not willing to offer an inroad, like if he said that and then say, you need to go check out this artist, like if he said you need to go check out Black Milk, or he say you need to go check out Killer Mike, or you need to insert rap or No Name or whatever. If he was going to say that, then I would. But if it's just going to be complaining about people listening to radio, I mean, okay.
It's more so about people not listening to him. That's what I think a lot of that boils down to with a lot of these older artists, is that it's almost like they're hurt that people aren't specifically listening to them, because they're not out here searching for artists either.
No.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying?
Or
the
it's
only
Mark's
thing,
point,
the only thing that they're listening to is what's on the radio or what somebody tells them is hot. They're not out here holding the flag and carrying it like they're kind of portraying, in my personal opinion, because like you said, they're not giving you any artist to listen to.
No.
They just have this opinion formulated that they don't like what's out, and I hate it, and blah blah blah, and there's more to this game than this, and y'all need to be listening to this. They're kind of referred to themselves.
I'll use this analogy specifically because our friend Mr. Kinetic is here. Hip hop right now is like an overcrowded elementary school classroom where there are some problem children. As a teacher, so much of your energy goes into telling this one kid to sit down, this one kid to, hey, put your head on your desk when I ask you to. When it's time for us to go to gym or to art class, get in line and be quiet. Quiet. Or just like, hey, could you just not disrupt the rest of the class? Like, there's 35 kids in the class. There's 3 that we pay way too much attention to. Yeah. Because I thought about it, like as a podcast and what we do, we've already paid way too much attention to somebody like Sexy Red, who's not going to be around in 2 years. So
Might be.
and I think that's what Killer Mike, not Killer Mike, but Masta Ace, Erick Sermon, when we artists who are of our generation, if you will, when we hear them talk, it's like they're so focused on the problem kids in the overcrowded classroom that they're not we don't talk about the A student. We don't talk about the kid that brings an apple to class. We don't talk about the kid who, has perfect attendance, because we keep talking about the kid who stands on his desk, and is always asking to go to the bathroom.
Ain't nobody out here trying to be Joe Clark and get to school together.
I mean, for analogy's sake, yeah. You make a really good point. Like, I always think about it from a musician standpoint, that when you're really deep in your musician bag, you kind of don't care. You just kind of do your own thing. Like, when you go and read old interviews or articles, I'm trying to think of somebody who never really stopped, like a Maja or like Sonny Rollins or Ron Carter. I don't know if you'll be able to find any interviews where they were like, oh, this new jazz, blah, 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 blah. They were just doing their own thing and like
continually creating.
They didn't care.
Yeah, it's really, and like, why? I don't know, why do you care? People gonna listen to whatever they want to listen to, but I agree with you. Some of it just sound bitter, and like, I don't know what Erick Sermon said, but like, man, if you want people to go listen to Strictly Business, just tell them that.
Yeah.
So it's a classic record. I mean, just tell people.
So
like,
Erick Sermon,
cool.
I think that it's good to marry these concepts or ideas together. So Erick Sermon essentially said that hip hop is stuck in one place, and if I could just kind of paraphrase everything that he has said, he said hip hop. The stuff that's out right now is not the hip hop that where it came from. We've heard this argument a bazillion times, but he said it's not evolving. Essentially, he's like he's like, you can see the evolve, hip hop evolving from this to this to this to this to this, but he's like, well, you can't really see it evolving where it's at now. And then that comes into what you just said, Terry, about the devolving conversation, which we've kind of talked about a little bit as well. It's not that I necessarily disagree with either of these guys are really saying. I think it's just kind of like, I don't know if it needs to be the conversation that needs to be had, because
if you're not helping the situation.
I'm about to say, what records are they putting out?
For sure. Like, you don't hear Nas complaining about this stuff.
That's exactly what I was about to say. To Jay Moore's point earlier, Nas, you can always bring it back to Nas. Nas is cut from that same cloth, from that same era. Jay-Z as well. Snoop as well. Snoop is getting it. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of being the best MC, Snoop finds a way. You know what I'm saying?
Look, if you still listen to Snoop is still putting out some great music.
Still putting out good music.
Back on Death Row had some joints. There was a joint with Nas on there.
He had 2 releases on Death Row that was solid.
Snoop, one of the most influential entertainers, period.
Right. Artists like him aren't saying this. They don't feel the same way.
If anything, they working with artists from that era,
or trying to.
Yeah.
Not that I can't say trying to stay relevant, because sometimes when I hear the trying to stay relevant, it's almost like you still trying to.
It seems like
cool.
an insult sometimes. Yeah.
Because the thing is, people, because you always get that person on TV, that older black anchor, when they talk about hip hop, it's like, I really liked Public Enemy, and I was like, Public Enemy still makes records.
They still making records.
I just wish they would go back. I was like, look,
never
man,
stop.
Look, I remember like, there was a point where like we got a record from Gangstar, Razzcast, and Smith & Wesson within like 12 months. And it was like, the people you still claim that you love are still making music.
Yeah.
But you're too busy complaining about what's on the radio. And it's like, why are you still listening to the radio and you're 45 years old?
E40 just put out a new album last week.
E40 put out a record called Bands earlier this year, and it's a hater.
It's got 400 songs on it,
it's
too.
A hater.
Right?
Like that makes me think about, so jazz always is like a good point of reference. If you pay attention to it, some of the best people have always put young people in their bands, but it was because they recognized that was like, Art Blakey is a prime example, and Herbie and Miles. They always had people in their bands that were like teenagers a lot of times, and it was just because that was the next wave of people that were good, and they put them on, and like, so instead of complaining about what people are doing that are new, why don't you work with them? I mean,
for sure.
But they also coined the term hip.
Yeah, like,
you know what I'm saying? They wanted to continue to be hip, so they were pulling people in to keep them hip.
Yeah. And there was no disrespect to the people they came up with, but everybody, that second great quintet of Miles, everybody came up and then they all split, and then Miles picked new people. That's why like 𝐀𝐿 was in Miles' band at one point. Marcus Miller was in Miles' band at one point. I think David Sanborn was in Miles' group at one point. But, all of that was just because these are the next wave. Like, if Masta Ace has a problem with it or whatever, like, I don't know, go do a record with Future. I mean, I don't, you know, I'm sure that's the thing they miss, like by complaining. If Erick Sermon picked up the phone and called, I feel like a lot of people would be like, sure, I'll be on a record with Erick Sermon, this dude from EPMD. Like,
Look, hey,
even if they don't know a ton about it, who's going to turn that down?
Snoop extended the olive branch to 𝗲𝐿𝐼.
And boom.
Now 𝗲𝐿𝐼 has in turn returned the favor right now because, I mean, there's a new crop of people coming up, but Snoop wasn't like somebody pushing him away.
Nah.
He's like, man, this is a product of me.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I invite him into the fold?
And there's
You know
there are some artists out there, like we write them off because of their content sometimes, but you don't, I mean, since we already brought her up, you don't know, Sexy Red might love.
She might be able to spit.
She might love Roxanne Shante.
She might be.
You know, and she, or like some of these, like a lot of times when these artists, they get pushed away from established artists immediately. And so there's a level of probably bitterness there, but it's like, man, these people are my heroes. I wish I could tell them how much I love them. What they did inspired me.
Just make sure you pay him when you sample him.
Well, that too.
That's
that
like
too.
Currency got a record with Babyface Ray's called Louis Baggage on Continuous. Was the last record he did with Alchemist. I don't know anything else about Babyface Ray.
Yeah.
And then when I went and looked at it for a little bit, it don't sound nothing
Detroit,
like,
right?
I think so.
Yeah, he's from Detroit.
It don't sound nothing like what I heard him doing on that record. And honestly, I feel like I like his verse more than I like Currency's verse. And Currency been around long enough now that we could probably consider him in that era of bringing people along. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I guess it's weird. Like, yo, if not, like, bring them with you. But then it's almost like, I feel like these cats forgot how they got here. So if Masta Ace was in what, Juice Crew?
Yep.
Like, does he not remember how that all came about?
Listen.
Like, does he not remember Juice Crew and how that all worked? I mean,
How they were shunned.
That's what I'm saying. He wasn't like
from
how
the
do you-
establishment.
Yeah, like what is? I don't know. You get old and complain, but honestly, what he's doing is one of my biggest fears about getting older and still being a hip hop fan. I don't ever want to sound like, now being around young people helps me not do it. Like I remember hearing about Playboy Cardi before he ever really blew up.
Right.
I remember watching the VCR video by Tyler the Creator before it was on YouTube, and that was back when they just had a Tumblr or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like these older cats, they could just turn around and look and like, let me see what's going on here. But like the argument that there's nothing good going on is such a lie.
It's tired because there's something going on.
Especially when it's like the
Good
only
stuff, too.
time, it's like the only time that we hear about them a lot of times now. It's like, so the only time that we're hearing about Masta Ace and Erick Sermon in the last 12 months is when they're complaining about stuff.
Which is
When
crazy.
they're being the mad rapper.
Yeah, because it's crazy. Like the first two EPMD records are crazy. Hey, what's the name of the Spotify playlist? Is all the new stuff.
I don't support Spotify anymore.
Well, wherever you getting it from, you know what I mean. I guess for me, like working in schools, let's see, this is my 16th
Sound like
year.
Rap Caviar.
Yeah, I've been working in school since 2008. You know, one of the benefits of that is I've always been around young people, and so they have always been in a different lane than I have been. Everybody that ended up blowing up, some young kids told me about it probably before I knew about it, and so I just have always been open to like, I'll go listen to it. It doesn't mean I'm gonna go ride around and listen to it, but I don't want to be disrespectful to a new generation of
I'm gonna
hip-hop.
give it a chance.
I don't want to be like our parents were.
No, I don't want to be like that.
To what we, because you know, just think about it. There's some people in 1993 who heard Wu-Tang Clan. It was like, man, how you gonna have 9 people in a rap group?
But see,
you know what I'm saying?
You know what's crazy though is our parents didn't grow up with rap, so it almost made more sense for them to kind of be like, I don't know if I'm really rocking with that.
But there's a generation of hip hop that didn't rock. At a certain point, they're like, man, they don't know how to perform.
Yeah, I mean, but us being a group of people that literally came up
Truly,
in what can be considered the golden age of hip hop. I mean, we seen it be surface level. We seen it pinnacle, rise, and be where it is today.
True.
We saw it before it was a big deal.
Yeah, I think we should give more grace.
Absolutely.
To what's going on and what's coming up, because I mean, regardless of how we feel about the current nature, there's always other places you can go to listen to this. I mean, we talk about it all the time. We had a blog where it wasn't it wasn't surface level hip hop. It was a blend of some kind of surface level, but a lot of it was, I mean, it was just good music.
It was a beautiful
So I mean,
blog,
it's
by the
on
way.
you. I mean, everybody has a smartphone and can pick it up and look up. You could almost create a playlist off of 2 artists.
Yeah.
So if you're stuck in this hole of you're hearing the same monotonous tunes day in and day out, you can pick up 2 or 3 artists and create a playlist and be introduced to a whole new wave. Simple as that. If you go on these kind of rabbit holes of picking up different artists, you're going to find somebody you rock with.
Right.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's my whole thing with people in the tired excuse that there's nothing new out there and everything sounds the same. It sounds the same if you're listening to the same thing.
Speak on it.
Or if you're listening to that same radio station.
My dad is exactly 30 years older than me. And there's a crazy thing to where if you're of my ilk and came up in hip hop, like by the time people who are one generation behind me and they were still in their 30s, because of hip hop is the first time where like black people who might have been 35 to 39 became uncool because there was such a shift in culture. You know, because it clearly just was not their music. It wasn't linked to anything that they had done. And so we're in this weird situation to where, like, you know, we talk about Masta Ace and Erick Sermon, to where they're still involved in hip hop. They are hip hop, but in a way they feel disconnected from what it is, from their own culture, because hip hop wasn't my mom and dad's culture at all. You know,
so it makes sense.
Mine either.
So yeah. So you're right around me and Terry's age. You know, in your early to middle 40s, late 40s for me. But sometimes I do feel disconnected, and I have to tap into my youngins and like ask them what they're listening. I ask what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, because I want to know. Because I just don't. Because sometimes, you know, I'll get a request when I'm working, and I was like, you made that up. You know, when I hear like the titles of these songs and the artists they're asking for.
There's a 42 Doug. Where's 41 Doug?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know where the other Dougs are.
Little Gliz hater.
No, but I mean, it really is a thing to where, like, you know, just like when I say, yo, shout to Young Fentanyl, like, you know, that could be a real rapper somewhere.
Come on, man.
But, you know, it really is sometimes where, like, you feel like, wow, I'm not cool anymore. And it bothers you. There are records there are records and artists I would have no idea if I didn't work in the environment I did.
Yeah.
Because I listen to what I want to listen to. It is not that. There's a lot. None of the stuff I play in my place of business is stuff I listen to in my spare time. You know, and so like there is sort of a disconnect, because the thing is you get to a point where you're like, I'm not cool anymore. Yeah. And I'm not cool anymore within my own culture. At least when it was my dad and his friends, maybe they weren't cool anymore, but they were not cool anymore outside of the culture. Yeah. You know, they had no choice.
You know what's
like,
weird?
I have a choice because I can still try to connect with people who are younger than me and try to at least try to school them and tell them about things that came before this. And it was like, oh, the producer that gave you this beat, let me show you where they gave you this beat from.
Yeah. See, and that's actually something that brings me back to even my relationship with my dad, because listening to Dr. Dre and them made me dive down that funkadelic hole.
Right.
So when I'm asking him, can I borrow your funkadelic, you know what I'm saying, albums and get hip to this stuff? That actually, you know what I'm saying, made him happy. Oh, here you go. You know what I'm saying? He handed them over easy. And it's kind of the same thing with us, though. Like, you have to be willing to, if they're listening to something that you don't necessarily dig, when they find something that they hone in on, you got to provide that to them and kind of lead them down the right path and help them kind of embrace both sides of it. But I kind of want to address this, what Nate Jeezy said.
Nate Jeezy. He says, it's not just old heads now, though. You got cats like Offset and Lil Yachty commenting on hip-hop lagging in sales and, quote-unquote, what's wrong with hip-hop?
And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about as far as you got to extend that olive branch to these other people. Now, granted, Yachty's probably considered the younger people right now, but he's in a situation now where a lot of people know who Yachty is.
Yeah.
So,
Lil Boat.
Exactly. He can do that in turn, make a change. Offset, absolutely. I mean, they argue that the Migos is one of the biggest hip hop groups of all time. Now, I beg to differ, but with him having that kind of power or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Tyler does a really good job of this.
Yes, exactly.
Tyler is always commenting, and he's like, man, I found this person on Spotify that had like 20,000 views.
But Tyler is one of those artists where none of his albums sound the same, though.
No, yeah, he's an artist.
Everything evolves.
He's not a product.
He's not a product.
He's an artist.
Exactly. So these cats that Nate Jeezy are talking about, they need to do the same thing. Not necessarily for themselves if they're not an artist like a Tyler the Creator, but they have the power to reach back.
I think we all do. I think we all do. You know, like no matter like what platform or how big you are, like if you are considered somebody that is an elder statesman of wherever you're at, you have look, you'd be surprised how many people know you that don't, you know, like even locally. They'll be
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, you're that person."
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It
to
is
think
kind of
about.
weird sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
you don't like even me, and I'm sure you get it too, Mark. It's just like people come up to you and just be like, "Oh wow, okay, cool."
Yeah, like
had
when
no
I
idea.
Yeah, when I went to Trees, it's amazing the amount of cats. Number one, that even kind of know who I am, but like
Yeah.
to stand there and have them say stuff like "you're a legend" or "you're an OG" or whatever, it's kind of like I didn't really, I don't think about it that way. But I think some of it has to do with your beliefs about community, though, because when you have community, you talk about your elders or whatever. The elders have always been on a different level that's why they're the elders. But they also, depending on the community, felt a responsibility to teach you about stuff that has already gone by. So like in my family played Bid Whist, which is a card game. And
there you go.
But you know what I'm saying? But that is their generation of things. We played spades more than anything else.
Right.
And so when we would get all around each other, they were going to teach us how to play bid. Now it's been a long time since I run a Boston on anybody, but you know what I'm saying? But they taught us that because they felt like it was important for us to know
To
that.
rite of passage.
Yeah. And I don't understand, like even my dad, like my parents actually did like hip hop and they still do, but my dad was always quick to point out like, oh, that's from that. Oh, that's from that. Oh, that's from that. And then he would be, oh, you need to go listen to that or whatever. So like my dad was one of the first people to tell me, oh, you need to go listen to a bunch of Donald Byrd stuff. He was like, some of this stuff. That's one of the things I remember. But I think when we're around young people, there's two ways it can go. You can either engage in that old sitting on the porch, falling asleep conversation and nothing coming out.
Nah, they ain't talking
You know
about
what I'm
nothing.
saying? And then before you look up, they over there asleep and they have to kick your rocking chair.
Yeah.
Or you could be like, okay, that's cool. You just a trade. Like, okay, if y'all want me to be hip to what y'all got going on, come on, sit beside me. I'm gonna make sure I show you some stuff too. Because I guess like, I don't know, like Lil Yachty, for example, or any of these dudes or Tyler. I mean, you could also be like, have you ever heard 𝐀𝐄𝐃 though? Like, cause then if you want to get into like everybody being different or whatever, there are people that the bridge could be built to. I just hope I'm never like that. That just is such an old, out of touch way to think about things that there's nothing else that could be listened to. And then Lil Yachty, it's interesting. I don't know what he said, but it'd be interesting that he said anything because his last album is so far from rap.
He said hip hop's in a terrible place and everybody's too safe.
I feel like every era has always said that though. The Jiggy era, they said that. Shiny Suit era, or the Snap era, they said that. Boom Bap era there's always been an era where people are like, well, this is stuck and blah.
Yeah,
blah,
they
blah.
found a pocket. That's
But
what happens. They find a pocket.
That's just what people want to make.
So what if that's what people want to listen to? They're just making what people want to listen to.
Listen, every genre goes through this exact same thing. The only thing about that I will say about hip hop evolves enough to keep it afloat. Because if you think about certain eras of music that just are gone. You know what I'm saying? Even from our past, like who makes grunge music anymore?
In the sense that we remember it?
Yeah.
Not for real.
Nobody.
Even the grunge artists that are still around don't make
Not for
grunge.
real. You
Who
could argue-
even makes like good rock and roll music?
It's hard.
It's hard. It's hard.
pressed.
Yeah.
Because remember, like there was such this was one of the biggest shifts in music where it went from hair metal to grunge.
Yeah.
MTV kind of didn't know what to do because all of a sudden the people they played on 120 Minutes became mainstream artists.
Yeah, Poison wasn't gonna work anymore.
Yeah, it was like, no, we don't. Then like Bon Jovi became alternative because what was on 120 Minutes. Shout out to everybody who knows what I'm talking about when I say 120 Minutes.
Throwback.
Like that's all of a sudden now because REM was around a long time before Stand and all and Shiny Happy People. And during the 80s, if you didn't watch 120 Minutes or maybe even like something like Nick Rocks, which was very much a progressive show on Nickelodeon because they would play hip hop, they would play They Might Be Giants. When MTV wouldn't get around to it because they were too busy playing Winger.
You sound like you mad about that one.
I'm just saying.
Put me in the old
He
version.
got some frustration.
You can stand
Once
Winger.
again, I'm the oldest of the old heads. I remember these things.
I remember.
Yeah, so it was really and there was this crazy shift around 90, 91 where they got where even from the pop music where all of a sudden, like I remember they did this special on MTV about what happened to all the New Kids on the Block fans is like now they like Alice in Chains. It was crazy.
It's kind of like that era where like pop shifted towards all those. They were all like really dancey, like 120, 128, that range BPM. I remember listening to this radio Hadaway and like
Jock
all that
jams
stuff. Jock
almost.
jams, basically stuff. and which
Crystal
a lot
Waters.
of it was sung by black women, but that's a whole different.
Hey,
but
Milli Vanilli.
man, listen,
Did you watch the documentary?
yeah, no, and then you think about CNC Music Factory, that's a black woman. Anyway,
Yeah.
But
Martha Walsh, shout out to you.
Martha Walsh is great from 2 Tons of Fun, which was then became the Weather
The
Girls.
Weather Girls. Yeah.
So, but when you think like even in that era, there's always been like I don't know. I just when I hear old rappers say this, I'm like, why do y'all?
There's just another way you can go about it.
All you could say is like, yo, I'm Erick Sermon from EPMD.
Let's make some records.
One of the most legendary
Come on,
duos in
man.
rap,
Listen.
honestly, if we're being real about it. Like, and just, I don't know why you don't.
And got a nice solo discography.
Yeah, pick
I
up
wonder-
the phone and call these people and be like,
Man,
hey,
look,
I wonder how much.
Nick Saban is still out here recruiting for
that's
his
what I'm
team.
saying.
I wonder how much of it is the.
So
also,
I need y'all to
talk to
do the
these
same thing
people.
as great elite producers. You need to still be out here recruiting for
But
your team.
how much of this is possibly, and I don't know because I didn't watch the whole interview, but how much of this is potentially to the media companies literally asking these particular questions because they know that they're going to get particular types
Well,
of responses
yeah.
as well.
I wish
You know what
these
I mean?
dudes had more media literacy than that, though, to know.
For
like,
sure.
Just like even,
Or even could have had a Joe Budden answer.
man, I don't listen to that, so I don't know.
But this is their time.
I just wish that they
know what
would
I mean?
recognize the opportunity that they have as Erick Sermon is a legitimate cornerstone of
Oh,
rap.
for
There's
sure.
no argument about
Yeah.
that. I don't understand why it couldn't be like, I hear some stuff and it's a little different than what I'm used to, but I would love to work with these guys.
Yeah.
He
Like,
dropped bars on the latest Nas album.
I'm saying if Erick Sermon
Or the
picked
one
up the
before.
phone, like
Yeah.
who was going to say no to that?
Yeah, nobody. I
Like,
mean,
if you-
somebody's going to be like, "What you said no to Erick Sermon."
Even if somebody got to tap you, and be like, that's
Bruh.
Erick Sermon.
Because all,
that's
these people,
Erick
all these
Sermon.
people
Do
got
something.
managers
So what
and
you're saying,
handlers that would tell them what time it is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Erick Sermon. Please listen to my demo. Like that's
Just
you know
like
what I'm saying?
Three
Like,
Stack said, he took his album to Tyler the Creator and let him check it out.
Yeah.
Frank
See
showed
what he
up.
had to say.
You just I don't know.
I just feel like saying
This is
All right.
I think I really do think some of it comes out of a lack of understanding / respect / knowledge of the value of elders in the community.
I think that's probably
And
part
how
of
much
it.
how much power elders have that will soon become ancestors like that.
Yes.
You have this is something I've been really thinking about as I've gotten older, because as more and more people die in my family, you have to start thinking about what is the legacy of these people and what was it like when they were there. But while I'm here, you need to spend time with your elders if you got them still living.
Come on,
anybody
man.
that's listening to this, you need to go do that.
Yeah.
Even if you just sit with them. But this disconnect from that very old indigenous idea of what a community is and why elders are important. I feel like these dudes are missing the boat. Like, you guys are important, and I don't think the young people want to argue with you.
I think it's more westernized than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very colonial, capitalist based idea that now that we are separate by generations, for some reason I cannot walk with you guys, and I don't. And I think the young people, is working with young people, they want to be connected to us. They don't want to be at odds with us. They if they listen to what's his name, any kind of
Rod Wave.
yeah, Rod Wave or Ari Lennox or anything like that. If they listen to that and you tell them about, I don't know, pick an R&B artist from a different era,
Erica Badu.
yeah, they'll listen to it.
Yeah.
They'll listen to it. They or Roy Ayers or whatever you pick something, they'll listen to it. They're not gonna tell you they don't want to hear it. We're more likely to tell them we don't want to hear what they listen to.
Yeah.
But I think that goes back to your point about, you heard Dr. Dre and you asked your dad for your Funkadelic records. I feel like young people are inquisitive in that way. They want to know more about stuff, and they are not.
And we're not inquisitive.
No,
our generation. We're not inquisitive. We don't even want to try to understand what these kids see in this music.
No, you really have to push yourself to be invested in what young people.
Yeah, because it's
are doing.
trash, Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like one of the most lazy responses in the world. I
This
don't
is
like it. It's trash.
Trashy, and that goes all the way back.
Like,
to,
have you heard?
Stay
it,
off
though?
my lawn.
Yeah.
Hey, man, that's not just
Like,
trash.
I don't love everything Future does, but sometimes I'll be like, yeah, this is kind of cool.
He got
He
a
makes stuff
couple
sound
flashes
cool.
in the pan,
Look,
but
sometimes you got to be like, okay, it's not
make it sound
for
cool
me, but I
sometimes.
get it.
Yeah.
See, sometimes you just got to be. Look, there are artists where I'm like, I get it. I get it.
When I tell people if I still had 212s in my car and was 19, the same stuff that these folks is listening to, I would have been listening to it too, because it would have been
you know
beating
what?
in the car.
you know what is, and I hate to toot my own horn, but I feel like I was real well-rounded with servicing my speakers in my car.
Absolutely.
Because I would have some 3-6 Mafia playing in my car. I would have some Dr. Dre, and I would have some Roots banging in my car. You know what I'm saying?
Gotta go to the big timers and all them for the hi-hats.
Same.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was always, man. You
but I
sound
was
like,
doing all of it though.
yeah, relatable.
Shout out to Naughty Pie, the builder.
Yeah,
Shout out to
Brought up Danny Brown and JPEG Mafia. They put up, that had their collaborative album and their tour might have one of my favorite names of all time.
oh yeah, it was
Get ready, Scaring the Hoes.
Scaring the hoes.
yeah. I was thinking about 𝗃𝗏𝗏𝐾𝐻 was in your girl city. Yeah, it was on that tour. Yeah,
That dude is a clown because
he is.
when he was here, after every song, he was like, "Thank you." He just go to the next song.
Yeah,
But it was a great time.
I am 𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗏.
He wouldn't even give you that much.
nah.
No, but it was a great show.
I'm thankful for this conversation though, because I hope somebody hears this and realizes, like, you know what, I do need to give that a chance.
For sure.
Yes.
You know,
I don't think we have these type of conversations enough.
yeah.
You know, I think it's so easy to kind of just get stuck in the repetition of what everything is. And just, again, to Masta Ace saying that it's lazy rap fans, I think it's also lazy in return to not.
You know, and the thing is, it's like, are they lazy rap fans because they're not listening to your music anymore?
Come on,
I'm
man.
telling you, that's what it's about. That's how I feel.
And if it's like that, then just tell
Just
them, like,
say
I put
that.
a record out sitting on Chrome is a great record.
Or tell
That's
them about
great.
your new
Just
record.
tell
Talk
them.
about disposable arts. Talk about the joints that you do.